Hello, everybody. So we're gonna do a quick stream today. Well, I don't know how long this is actually gonna take. I have RUD in front of me. Actually, let's throw that up right now. So we have RUD and a bunch of tools, and we're basically going to work here until RUD is apart. And I have looked at all the things we need to look at, basically. Yeah, we're just gonna keep going until we do that, and then I guess we'll see how we go from there. Yes, we are indeed live. Hello, everybody in chat. Also, if you see me looking over here, that is where you are right now. I haven't actually had a chance to get chat set up in front of me, so I'm gonna look over here from time to time, and that is all of you. So, hello, welcome to the stream. Yeah, we're gonna get started on pulling RUD apart. Now, I have already kind of sort of started this a little bit because I had to pull RUD apart for doing the melty testing, which actually I have the melty tester on the floor over there next to me at this point in time, and we might even have a look at that later, but I have also already pulled it apart even further than it was then. It's a stream of pulling things apart, apparently. Hello, hello. Welcome into your first stream. Yes, this is actually the first time I've streamed in a year, it turns out. Yeah, I need to do this more. I did actually quite like streaming. I've been very busy. So anyway, we're going to get started on pulling this robot apart. And actually, first thing we're going to do is take the battery out, because that we really don't need in there while we're messing around with screws and bits and pieces. So let's throw that away. Now, I've brought a ton of tools here because I don't actually know exactly what we need. That is always a problem with doing this type of thing, is that when things get broken, and there are definitely broken things on this robot, it is hard to know what tools you actually need. But I think what we're going to try and do is we're going to start with the wheels, because at the moment, it kind of moves around all over the place, which isn't going to help with pulling the thing apart. So we're going to get rid of these first. Is this guy the right screwdriver? It's kind of important, or it's going to be fairly important to use the right screwdrivers here, because things have been Loctited in, and without the right screwdrivers, we're just going to strip the heads of screws as we go through. So, yeah, definitely need to do that, which is why I've got a ton of tools over here right now to do that. Now, this guy, I'm going to zoom down in on this. Let's see if we can do that. So, this guy, you might be able to tell, has a screw stuck right in here, which this is actually damage from maybe NHL, maybe earlier than that. This particular set of motors has been on my meltybrain since I bought them, and one of them had the head sheared off, but of course I Loctited that bolt in there, didn't I? Which means that this is basically impossible to remove now. So we might end up replacing this motor for the build of RUD that I take to Robot Havoc 7, I think we're up to now. Okay, also, we're going to temp you guys back out a little bit, just so that you're not so close up in on me there. And we'll get the rest of these. Okay, I've got a couple of screwdrivers that will do this job. So, just also trying to not block the camera with my hand while also getting to the bolts that I need to get to. Those screws were worryingly easy to pull out. I wonder if they did actually have Loctite on them. Looks like they did. There's a little residue on the edges of the screw there. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see that or not. Nope, because my camera is going to refuse to focus on it. Of course. Anyway, that's our first parts off the robot. Well, other than the lid, but the lid comes off all the time, so that's fine. Get rid of those screws as well. Yes, yeah, these motors have served me very, very well, especially for the fact that I've been YOLO driving these the entire time. And actually, that damage might have even existed from the very first version of the vertical spinner melty, where the wheels and the weapons had a fairly similar diameter, which meant that when I got hit by an undercutter, it was kind of like 50-50 whether they hit the wheels or they hit these spinners. So, yeah. That might be where that damage is from, actually. Or around that time. I think I also fought a vert back then, too. And yes, it is Havoc 7. Okay, good. Yeah. I mean, I've been to all of them. I should know how many there were. But apparently I don't. So, there you go. Now, what is going to be the easiest next thing? I think the easiest next thing is going to be to take... There are 2 top plates in here, which help to hold these, like, weapon blocks in. So I think getting those out next is probably the best idea. I cannot remember if I Loctited these. Nope, I did not. Okay. I think I just tightened these down quite tightly. Need to watch the NHRL streams. You've been neglecting them. Yeah, that's understandable. Especially the bracket streams. They're just very, very long. Although having said that, I have been slowly working my way through the June one, kind of doing what I'm doing now, but instead of streaming it, I've been watching a VOD of a stream, I guess. Going my way through that one, which has been good. The flamethrower bots have really stepped up their game at NHRL in the past couple of months, and I've missed a couple of streams, so yeah, now it's interesting seeing some of these flame bots that are coming through NHRL and just, like, melting things. It's been kind of crazy, to be honest. Although, was that in this one, or was that in Teams? It could have been in Teams. I've also watched Teams recently, too. Yeah, because the Teams event was interesting. I am fairly keen to see what happened in the actual bracket for Teams, but yeah, obviously that doesn't exist online anywhere yet, but I'm sure they'll put something out whenever that's ready to go up. I don't actually know what they're doing with it. Something. Also, right now I'm taking off the skids, which, I'm never going to be able to show you this at all, I don't think, but this is a tiny little skid. It is designed like a bump, and it has been worn flat. In actual fact, I might be able to show you this because I'll be able to... Where did I put? Ah! Okay, next time we need to be a little more prepared for potentially writing on the desk. So, yeah. Here we go. We're just going to write on the desk right here. So they're supposed to look like that. But this one, because it's been melted a couple of times, it now kind of... this may not rub off. But anyway, it's been flattened off. And I will probably have to isopropyl alcohol that later to get that off. Whoops. Although I do have... Yes. I've got a little whiteboard eraser here, so maybe that'll do the job. No, that's just making things worse. Okay, well, we're going to leave that there. Look, sometimes these things happen, but that's alright. Yeah, the melting does wear big patches into these skids, and in actual fact, this skid's probably needed to be replaced after 2 fights, I would say. So I need to make sure I've got spares of those for Havoc, and yeah, actually do the replacing, because this time around I didn't. I just kind of kept putting the melty into fights, and yeah, things get broken and get worn down when you're spinning that fast. Yeah. Yeah. Look, the going to NHRO, you definitely need a plan for dealing with fire at this point in time. Yeah. Look, we're gonna cover up the mistake. Look, there's no whiteboard marker on this desk at all. None. Totally fine. We'll just, not move RUD for the rest of the stream, and it will be fine. Oh, well. Things happen. That's all right. Like I said, isopropyl alcohol will get rid of that. No problems. And these desks I've had for a while. There's actually some videos on the channel from ages ago, pre-pandemic, where I was using these desks as a whiteboard. The only problem is, since then I have built a lot on the desks, so it's all the scratches and things that have picked up the whiteboard marker more than anything else. So right now, let's go down a little further. What we're doing is we're taking off this guy. Now, these should be pretty okay. I am fairly glad with how they held up. These were my kind of new addition to RUD this build, and it was to help hold in these weapon mounts effectively, because the last version of RUD, which is actually on the shelf over there, which I might even get later on, but I'd have to be off camera for a second to do that. Yeah, it didn't have anything like this. It was held in with heat insert nuts, and they broke, which is why at NHRL, when the second fight was finished, it looked like a taco. Well, not a taco, like a croissant kind of deal. Anyway, we are just going to have to sit through a whole lot of wood screws here. So this is the secret to all of my meltybrains. It is 6mm HDPE held together with as many of these tiny little wood screws as I can get my hands on, which is a lot of them. And yeah, well, I guess it's not even how many I can get my hands on. It's how many I can actually fit into the connection points between these two. And also everything is jigsaw puzzle pieced, like you see here, so that they all just like click together and stay in place. The one mistake I did make with this lid is I did not cut a recess for a googly eye, which we definitely need to do for Robot Havoc 7. We are not going into fights at Robot Havoc without a googly eye. That's crazy. Yes, wear and tear, the sign of used products. I fully agree. And combat robots no more than anything else. Sorry, more so than anything else. That was the wording I was looking for there. So, okay. Oh, man, we've got a lot of screws to get through tonight. We're 4 out of this one already, and there's 2 more to go from the top and 2 to come in from the sides, which hold on a singular tab. These are so heavily screwed because they are like a main connection point for this weapon mount. So I really didn't want them to go anywhere. Because, yeah, obviously the weapon mounts are the things that are taking significant impacts, which is trying to drive them out from the robot. So everything we can do to hold those on is a good thing at this point in time. And I was also underweight, so I didn't go overboard with this. The googly eye is an important strategy, yes. I mean, I've talked about this. I think I talked about it at NHRL when I went last year. But a googly eye, which, oh, do I even have one around right now? I don't think I do. What? Huh, okay, well, I'll have to remedy that situation. Anyway, a googly eye is interesting because when you put the googly eye on top of the robot, that shows up well enough. So you put the googly eye on the robot and you start to spin, and it throws the googly eye to the edge of it throws a little dot to the edge of the googly eye, and then as the thing spins round, what you get is a little ghost of a circle in the middle, which is a tiny little pupil, which is just the overlap part where the pupil kind of rotates around on axis. But then, if the melty starts wobbling, then the googly, like the pupil inside, kind of bounces around all over the place, and that little dot kind of moves a little bit around, and you can tell that the robot is not like spinning correctly, which is an important thing to know when you're trying to melty, because yeah, melties only really work when they're actually spinning nice and stable and level. And yeah, if anything starts to mess with that, like, you know, spinning up 2 vertical spinners, then, yeah, things stop working quite as well, and you start having trouble translating and all that kind of stuff. So it's a handy little thing to know, and a googly eye on top of the robot actually helps you know that, which is interesting. It's a side effect that I didn't intend. I just kind of slapped a googly eye on the robot because I like slapping googly eyes on robots, especially weird and wonderful robots. And it actually served a purpose. So, yes, I know there's no... Yeah, the googly eyes... Not having googly eyes in my office here is ridiculous. Oh, I know what it is. I had a pack of googly eyes next to me, but I took them to the last robot event. So they're in my robot bag, I think. But my robot bag is not in this room right now. I mean, there are some up on the shelf behind the camera right now. There's a couple on Highland Coup, and then there's also some on a chassis of Mouse, which I was very kindly given by Tom when I was over at NHRL, which was very nice of him. We did a trade. He took home one of the Cacophony chassis, I was running as a mini bot while I was over there, and I took home a Mouse, which was really cool. I quite like Mouse. And if you watch my videos, it's kind of up over my left shoulder in those videos. So, I am off camera. Right, let's zoom back out a little bit. And yes, I am doing manual zooming. I don't have a fancy camera that I can just like remote control. Oh, well, yeah. First of all, we need to pull this guy off. It's somewhat of a tight little jigsaw puzzle. So there you go. That's one of those. Now we need to do that on the other side. And you can see now the top of this. All right, let's go back down. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so this is the top of that that weapon mount block. Like one of these days I'll get all of this I'll get this streaming thing a little bit better, but that's all right. So that one's coming out quite easily. Oh, because it's tiny. All right, I think I was running out of screws. That's all right, I bought some more since all of this has happened. We're just another 8 more screws and we'll get this off. And then we're going to need to start looking at these weapons, because these weapons definitely have taken some damage over the course of events and things. I mean, the pulleys themselves are the same pulleys I've been running for a little while, and they have definitely taken damage, but they've taken damage before this event. So we'll see some damage on these that is not like at all indicative of the damage that it took at this last event, because they've been used before. So, and I'm gonna keep using them until they explode, basically, because they are good enough for now. Yeah. All right, getting through this. I think what, 2 more to go? Nope, 3 more to go. I really got an electric screwdriver somewhere around the place, but I don't often use it for this type of work. Well, I don't often use it for putting bolts in, because it's way, way, way too easy to strip a screw head, putting it into HDPE like this with an electric screwdriver. And yeah, so I didn't think to grab it when I started this, because I'm not used to using it for this type of work, but maybe it would have been helpful. I think next time I'll do that, because that would make a lot of sense, really. 1 more over here, and then we're pretty close. Well, we'll get this guy off anyway, and that also helps us get the electronics out and things. Well, somewhat. Come on, there we go. Okay. Now we can start just detangling the giant mess that is inside here, which is all of this. So some of these, okay, right, we're going to take out the weapon ESCs first, because all of that will need to be replugged anyway, because we lost a weapon during this one. So there we go. Oh, right, and then that's the receiver for the weapons. So that's the other upgrade that's on this at the moment, is this wiring harness is just to deal with the weapons. So it plugs in to the power harness on the XT30 here, and then it's got 2 ESCs, which are exactly the same, so they spin things, well, fingers crossed, they spin things exactly the same. And then we've got another receiver. So this robot actually runs 2 receivers, one for the weapon system and one for the melty system, just so that the melty doesn't have to worry about doing anything with the weapons. The weapons are controlled by this, and the melty brain just kind of ignores the channel that controls the weapon motors. It simplifies the code a little bit. It means that the melty brain's not doing as much, so the code loop runs a bit faster, which is very helpful when you're spinning at 2000 RPM. Not that I think we're quite getting to that level yet. That's where I want it to be, but I don't think we're there yet. Anyway, I think the next thing to do is going to be to take off this edge. So this guy looks pretty bad right now. Getting these bolts back out of here is probably going to be a very big pain, because we've got 2 that are bent in a weird way, and also these are definitely Loctited in. So I'm going to have my work cut out for me getting these out of here, I think. But yeah, I think the best way to start that process is to take this whole system off and go from there. So I think, yeah, we're going to start with the M6 bolt in the back here. Oh, okay, this could get interesting, because I don't really have a lot of access to the oh, my camera's not focusing, hang on. There we go. So I don't really have a lot of access into the actual hex head of this bolt. Yeah, so this is going to be interesting to try and deal with. I don't really know how this is going to go. In fact, what we might even try and do is we might just see if we can get a couple of bolts loose first. That might help us out. Now, I did have an Allen key around here somewhere for this. Yes, I do. Alright, let's see if we... Okay, those actually aren't too bad. Maybe they got loosened up with all the impacts and stuff. Oh, huh. Okay, that could have been a lot worse than, well, it could have been a lot worse than that anyway. So, that's one. Now, these are M4 12.8 grade hardened steel bolts. So the fact that these have been bent quite as badly as they have is wild. Like, that's a lot of force, and I think that was all Harbinger from the last meet that I was at, which is a big, nasty vertical spinner. It's known for kind of throwing people into the roof, and I think it was a hit like that. Wait, am I going the wrong way? No. Okay. Oh, right. Well, that one's tight. Or maybe it's bent. I don't know. It could be both, really. It could be still Loctited in, and it could be a little bit bent, given how badly this weapon system has been beat up at this point. Yeah. Alright, I think if we can get this down to 2 bolts, we might be able to wiggle the, Oh yeah, this guy's definitely a bit crusty. So it's got some Loctite left on it for sure. Okay. Whew, alright. That ended up not actually being too bad. I was really worried about that. I've got like a lighter with me and everything to try and loosen Loctite in bits and pieces, but that's turned out okay. I'm not too unhappy with that. Could have been a little easier, but it certainly could have been a ton harder than that. Alright. So, now we've got those 4 out. Does this guy... Or do I need to move this as well? I think I need to move that as well. Now, that's what I've got these for. We got some nice big lock on this and see if we can move it. Oh, is that going to move? I may have spoken too soon. This might still be very difficult to do. Okay. Oh, hey Tom, how's it going? Any plans to revisit the dual horizontal melty? Yes, I think so. I think the thing with this, like, this vert melty has been a lot of fun. It is proving very challenging to keep the weapons alive on, so I might move back over to that. The other thing too is that realistically, throwing the weapons vertically, you're not getting that much benefit from meltying with a vertical weapon because the additional spin isn't in the right axis and things, so I think it's not... Like, I think if you look at RUD's hits of things, it either gets a, like, small little vert hit or it gets a horizontal hit. It doesn't really get kind of both, which is what I wanted it to do. So the horizontal with spinners is probably the better way to go. I don't know, maybe. I feel like every time I fight a melty with weapons on it, I think that, like, the other style could be the best way to do the melty. So, you know, maybe there's no good way to put weapons on a melty, but it's fun, so that's why I'm going to keep doing it. But yeah, I think I do. I think I want to take a look at that again, especially now that I'm looking at putting accelerometers in my melties and things. Like, I'm going to get a better melty heading, so it'd be interesting to go back to that style and just see if that improves things or not, basically. Yeah. That was a very long-winded way of saying yes, I guess, but that's just, you know, a little bit more of my, like, thought process on this. Oh no. Okay. How do I do with that? I think just because it's these two, they've like catty-cornered each other in, and I can't move it far enough in either direction to like get that out. And I haven't dealt with the one that's in the way of the Allen key slot. Now, oh, that's a good question. Do I have the right Allen key nearby? I think so. I think I've got a big Allen key in here. Yes, I might have to put it in a vice. That is very true. Melty just seemed like a bad idea on paper. Yeah, kind of. I mean, like, I don't know. I think the thing with melties is that they are, to my mind, in the same boat as ring spinners. It's like, on paper, if you get them right, all your offense is defense and all your defense is offense, which means you need to put less armor in and things, and you can like beef up your offense even further. But it's very, very hard to get them right, and lots of people have tried. And lots of people have got them working for sure, but they still have an Achilles heel to them somewhere. And in both cases, really, if you stop spinning ever, you die. So yeah, it is a problem because you're kind of trading some reliability issues for other reliability issues, where, you know, now you're putting all of this effort into your weapon, and if the weapon ever goes down, then the robot is nothing, basically, and is just a sitting duck, which I guess there are, like, you can build horizontals and verticals and stuff that are basically that same deal, but in a ring spinner or a meltybrain, you're kind of, like, amplifying that problem, effectively. And banking on the fact that your weapon is never ever going down. So, yeah, which that's a gamble for sure, but also they are fun and I like building them. So, you know, I'm not going to say too much against them. Place the weapon in a vice. I do not have a vice in my office. That would be all the way out in my shed, all the way out there. So, if it gets to that point, then we may just have to leave this guy on and move on with this build. Oh, well, build. Teardown. That is what we're doing today. We are doing a teardown. All right. What I want to try and do, I really do want to try and get this weapon off if we can. It does feel like it might be best to get rid of the rest of the electronics, maybe? Is that going to be possible? I think so. I think if we take this weapon off first, then we get to that point. They are lethal when they work, but when they fail hard. Yeah, I would say that. They're basically like, well, they're kind of glass cannons in a way. Excuse me. Yeah, because they've got one really big shot in them, and if that shot ever goes down, then the robot goes down. And there's not much that you can really do about that, other than try your absolute hardest for the weapon to never, ever go down, which, as anybody who's ever done any combat robots will tell you, is way easier said than done. Despite your best intentions, you will always have some fights with your robot where your weapon goes down for one reason or another. It is, I would say, verging on impossible to ever build a robot that doesn't have weapon problems at some point in its lifetime. Which obviously means that if you're building a robot where if the weapon ever goes down, you lose the fight, you just need to know that you're going to lose some fights. And look, sometimes that's what happens. Like, combat robots just be like that sometimes. Oh, this one's tight. Oh, this one's very tight. Okay, this one might be a little bent as well. Some of these, I think, got more hello in chat. Oh, yeah, this one's definitely got more Loctite in it than the last one. Damn. Alright. Good thing this is a big-ish Allen key and it's not bending under my hands right now, but yikes. And the Allen keys hit the floor. Okay, you're gonna have to give me 30 seconds because I need to find that. Where has that even gone? Oh, it's actually at my feet. Okay. Alright. There we go. And then you have the drain damage route from Robert Cohen. Yes, well, that's true. He's gone the, like, no weapon, just be a big brick route. Has he fought that? I don't think I've seen any videos of him fighting that. In fact, I don't think he's done many combat robot videos at all recently. Like, I've seen that he did his filament storage and his, like, printer racks and stuff. And those videos were interesting, but I don't think I've seen any combat robot stuff from him recently. And if that's just the YouTube algorithm not recommending me combat robot content, that's ridiculous. Like, the YouTube algorithm definitely should be telling me about combat robot content. That's for sure. Alright, well, this weapon came off. I mean, we have the issue of the one bolt that is still in it. Can I even show that on this camera? Kind of. There it is. Alright, let's see if I can get a little closer. There we go. Slightly out of focus. But there is one bolt still in here because it doesn't have a head anymore. Yeah. Will we ever see brain damage fight? No, we won't. Let's be honest. I mean, look, I think we will. I think we will. I think because Robert is the type of person that, like, shows off his creations, and Drain Damage was designed for one very specific type of fight, what I think is that we may not see all of its fights, but I think we will see a fight or an event where it goes and it fights a lot of spinners and it does the things it was designed to do, which is take really, really big hits and keep on swinging. I think that's going to happen. I think we will see those type of things out of it. I don't think we'll see all of its fights, but, you know, I also don't know if it's actually fought yet or not. So I have no way to back up that statement. I just think that if Robert takes it fighting, I think it will end up on YouTube at some point. Anyway, we did get one weapon off, so that's a good start, at least. Yeah, I still don't know about this other weapon on this other side. Alright, let's back out just a little bit again. There we go. That's kind of a little better for us. Oh yeah, that's right. This side, things get a little tricky in the order of operations of taking things in and out of this particular robot. We need pliers to get into the nut at the back here, underneath the screw switch. Oh, I did not think about this at all. This is going to be a nightmare. But I can't, so the issue that I'm facing right now is one of wiring mess. So, in here, we have this screw switch here, and then in deep behind that, we have the bolt, or the M6 nylock nut, which I don't even think you can see. Let's move everything out of the way. Yeah, in deep in here, we have the M6 nylock that's on the back of this M8 shoulder bolt in the back there. So trying to get a tool in on that is going to be a bit of a problem. I might have a solution. Oh, I don't... does this set not go up high enough? Uh-oh. Is it supposed to be that, or is it supposed to be that? Yeah, I don't think that's the right one. That is not the right one. Okay. Well, we're going to have to do this the difficult way then, which is getting rid of those and using pliers, which is definitely not how this was designed to be pulled apart, because pliers in there is going to be a little difficult. I don't think there's any other way, unless I try... I might try these. Last update was a year ago. Feels like a polar situation Paul Ventimiglia situation where the flame is gone and they've moved on to other things. Look, it could be. I mean, here's the thing. Robert was doing kind of like techie, buildy, DIY content for other places, and I think on his own before he got into combat robots, and it could be that he's done the things he wanted to do in combat robots and is moving on. I mean, he has been to BattleBots. That is like the kind of pinnacle of building at this point in time. And a lot of people aspire to get there. I mean, I know that there are lots of people who don't ever feel like going that far. But I feel like if you gave any random robot builder $1 million just out of the blue with no questions asked, I think most of them would build a BattleBot. Even if they don't get accepted, I think they would just build a heavy out of want or, you know, something. Anyway. Tom says, Katie wants to know when you're going to be back at NHRL. Look, if I could be back at NHRL, I would be there every single event. Unfortunately, the way things are going right now, it's probably like at least next year, if not 2026, before I'm back at NHRL, which is really sad. I do want to go back, and look, if you kind of turn that hypothetical scenario around and I was the one getting $1 million, yeah, sure, I would build a BattleBot, but I would also be going to NHRL like twice at least this year. Although maybe I couldn't do that. I don't know. Is there 2 more events before the grand finals? I would at least go for new bots next year. Maybe bring a horizontal dual spinner meltybrain instead. Because that hasn't been seen or done before at NHRL. So that would be cool to take to the new bots event. Alright. Get on the nut inside the robot, please. Lock clamps. And also don't pinch the very important power wire that is right next to it. Is that on? Can we give that money to Chomp, please? Yes, that would be great. I would love to see Walker Chomp back again. Or actually any version of Chomp. The stuff that they were doing with Chomp was really good. And yeah, I really, really want to see them back at BattleBots at some point in the future. I love anything that's kind of got new and interesting tech in it, because like combat robots, as those of you out there probably know, is like the best place to test out anything, because there is so much energy. It's such a like damage-rich environment that testing any tech, if you put it in the battle box and it survives the battle box, it will survive basically anything life can throw at it. Maybe except for like being shot at by a tank. Theoretically. Although, you know, double jeopardy does exist, so... alright, can I get these pliers on here? I think so. Yes. Alright, is that going to hold? One way to find out. Nope, that's not holding. Okay. Oh yeah, Trump with $1 million budget would be insane. Oh yes, they would go absolutely nuts with $1 million budget, and I, for one, would love to see that happen. I don't have $1 million, so I cannot do this, and I am so very far from $1 million that it's never going to happen. But yes, I would love to. I would love to see that. That would be such a boon for the sport, I reckon, especially now in an era of like shorts and all that kind of stuff. Like a Trump with $1 million budget is going to make something crazy enough to be making lots of content about, which, you know, I guess I'm a little biased as a content creator, but that is kind of the way of getting more eyes and more people into the sport, is doing all of that. Having said that, I don't do shorts, which I probably should, because that is where a lot of people watch their content these days. And I am, you know, talking about making shorts out of Walker Trump stuff, so yeah. Something to think about in the future anyway. It's just not a format that I... Ah, look at that. We finally got the thing out of there. Ah, good. Alright. That should... Well, okay, other than the other weapon, because the other weapon is going to be a real pain to get out. That should be one of the last, like, annoying ones to do. Now, this... Was this one the one that was... Yeah, I think this one's a little crunchy. I think one of these bearings is starting to go. We need to investigate. Come on. Come out. Thank you. Oh, yeah. That bearing is not rolling right. Okay, well, good thing we found that, because that definitely needs to be replaced. I'm going to put that in a pile that is the... Oh! That one's very, very crunchy. Does it sound crunchy? Okay. I'm not sure if this is going to pick up on the microphone as not. Or not, but we're going to try. No, it doesn't pick up on the microphone at all, which is unfortunate. But this is a very, very crunchy bearing. Um, yeah. They were really innovative too. They need bots trying something new. Yes, I fully agree with that. That's always great when people are doing things just to try something, just to see how it goes. A bot that simultaneously has one of the worst loss records in sport, but also is a sole win against three-time world champion. Yeah, yeah, that is true. I mean, that shot that Chomp got on Bite Force's belt is just pure class. Like, that is the perfect hammer shot, I think, ever. Realistically. You could not ask for a better hammer shot than that, and they got it against Paul Ventimiglia of all people. Like, that's great. Like, that's just insane. As far as you know, I've only done one shot on my channel. Yeah, I have. And that was about tangential drive stuff, I think. Because back then, that was like fairly new, when shorts were fairly new, and I didn't really know what they were supposed to be, and people didn't really know what they were supposed to be. So I used it as a like extension of my long form content. But realistically, what it seems to have become in the last kind of couple of years is that people put up shorts that are almost like adverts for their long form content, if that makes sense. Like, they show bits of their long form content in a shorts friendly way to get people to go over and watch the long form content. So maybe I should do something about like the mini hacksmith battle bot and like take some of that that footage and turn it into a short and put some shorts up. I don't know. I have a lot of robots I'm working on right now, so I think shorts is probably going to happen after Robot Havoc happens. But look, it's something that I might look into moving forwards here, because yeah, it could be interesting to do. And I haven't done a lot of them, so you know, always try new things, really. But again, probably after I've built all the robots I need to build. I say while taking apart one of the robots I have signed up for Robot Havoc 7. But look, these things are the way it goes, and sometimes you need to do a full teardown before you go and compete again. Yeah, you would love to give building a go, but it feels like guides are focused on specific gear. If you can request some content, doing an AliExpress build and find info on how to source good parts. Yeah, look, I mean, the kind of problem with beginner stuff right now is that a lot of the best ways to be a beginner in this sport currently are to find the people who make robot content or like make robot products in your country and go to them directly, because they often like sell beginners kits and things, and they're usually like a one-stop shop where you can get basically everything you need to build your first robot. And trying to do things off AliExpress and stuff gets a little bit difficult, because I've done things on AliExpress before. Like, one of my beginner spinner video, or what did I call that? Like, the easiest spinner build tutorial video, which is like an hour-long thing that goes through everything you need to do to build a spinner combat robot. I didn't provide links to AliExpress. I provided links to search terms on AliExpress, because if you provide a direct link to something on AliExpress, in a year it's gone. Like, they've pulled that listing down and they've replaced it with an identical thing for 2 times the price, because, the world moves on and things get more expensive, and, especially over COVID and stuff with shipping issues and blah, 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 blah. Like, what that means is that that video has a shelf life of a year, and if you provide direct links to AliExpress things, it will exist for a year, and then you will basically need to like do another one and do another one and do another one. But YouTube doesn't work like that. I still get people commenting on videos from 6+ years ago. So if I put a video out now about an AliExpress build and give exact links, in 3 years' time I'll get people being like, "Oh, but I can't build this because all the links are broken." And I'll be like, "Well, but I've done one the second year and one the third year, but YouTube doesn't hasn't shown them those videos. They've just shown the one where all the links are broken." Yeah, I I would love to, basically, but it's difficult to do something that is a universal, everybody could absolutely build this robot based on what I'm giving them. And like I said, it's much easier to build from local suppliers, but I am an Australian, so while I know about some of the local suppliers in America and in the UK and stuff, it's harder for me to recommend their things because I don't use them constantly and I don't know how they perform in combat and stuff. And some of that is changing. Some of them have sent me some stuff and I've tried it out in combat and it's really good. But yeah, it's slightly difficult, unfortunately. Again, it's something I would love to do more of. Now, I'm trying to get out. Got one more bolt in the bottom of this to get this out. And I'm going to stop going on random tangents. Oh, I guess they're not really that random. You guys are asking me questions and stuff, which is good. I'm happy to sit here and answer questions while, we're doing what is effectively taking bolts out of a robot. I'm sitting here unscrewing my robot. So, oh, no, don't tighten. We want to loosen. There we go. Yes. Guesstimate build. Yes. Yeah. So the robot in the beginner spinner became guesstimate eventually because I did a slightly upgraded version with an actual hardened steel weapon on it and stuff, and that became guesstimate. Because I think the original beginner spinner I used 3D printing and screws as weapon teeth, which I still stand by. I think that's still a good way to get into the sport. I would try and get laser cut weapons as soon as you could, but starting out without doing that means less expense, basically. And it will survive a fight, maybe. So print a couple, get some spares. YouTube seems to only be showing me your vids from exactly 5 years ago. Yes, I don't understand. From my side of things, it is interesting what YouTube chooses to show people and what it doesn't, because the algorithm seems to go through phases where all of a sudden for a week or 2 weeks, I'll get lots and lots of comments and things on old videos where YouTube selects a couple of my backlog and just starts feeding them back out to people again. And it's 2 or 3 videos that just get a bunch of new comments on them that are new people being shown those videos, which is great. And some of those videos are really good. YouTube seems to be doing it a lot for more tutorial-y type videos, which is nice. Some of those, I stand by a lot of the tutorials I've done. I think there's 1 or 2 that I would probably remake pretty soon. Well, again, probably post Havoc at this point, to be quite honest, because again, lots and lots of robots to build before Havoc. Yeah, but there, like I said, there are some tutorials out there that I probably redo, but most of them I think are still pretty okay. Other than the links issue, like I said, I try and do my best to give links where possible that aren't going to go down, but I can't ever guarantee that. And yeah, dealing with places like AliExpress makes it difficult, because AliExpress, they're a bazaar. They're, well, in the market bazaar sense, effectively. They host a whole bunch of people who sell stuff, and look, in a couple of years, people can go out of business too. So I just need some water there because I'm talking quite a lot. Obviously, this is what I am doing today. I am streaming and talking, and we're just going to do a lot of that. Ah, okay. So we might have an issue here too. So, going down again. Here we have the weapon bolt, which I really can't get to, and then we have the other bolt in under here, which I can't really get to because the weapon is blocking it. Ah, you problem child, you. Is there anything I can do about this for now? Can I maybe try and hammer that bolt? No, it's a hardened steel bolt. I'm not going to be able to move that at all. Have you considered roller bearings instead of ball bearings for the weapon shaft? With the meltybrain design, there's lots of force on the shaft of that hit. I have, but so these bearings are just like they're quite thin, which is what I needed in here. And also with roller bearings, you still need a way of like capturing the end in a frictionless way. So I guess I could do roller bearings and a thrust bearing. That would probably work as well. But for now, I'm holding on to these pulleys because they're the only two I've got, effectively. These pulleys. Here we go. And they are pocketed and recessed for these exact type of bearings. And if I go through and do new pulleys in the future, then I might look at some roller bearings. Especially now that I'm getting to the point where I'm crunching ball bearings. I would really, really like for the meltybrain to do tapered roller bearings, but I don't think you can get M8 size or 8mm internal diameter tapered roller bearings. At least I haven't seen any in Australia so far. I'm sure look, they might be out there and I've just not seen them, but I haven't seen them personally yet. And those would be ideal for what I'm trying to do. But yeah, like I said, haven't seen them, so they're not there. It would be helpful to get some. Do you have a book recommendations for robot combat? No, unfortunately not. Because Robots is really the only book out there, as far as I know, that is a like technically based book. All the other writing on combat robots that I know of right now is like blog posts and Facebook posts and Discords and that type of thing. People tend to be doing that more than writing books at this point in time. And I think your point about the Riobots book being a little outdated is kind of the problem there. Like, again, you can write a book and in 2 years, 5 years, whatever, it's outdated because the technology's moved on. And admittedly, the last like 10 years, the technology has moved on a ton because of like drone motors and things, and drones in general, like lipo batteries and drone brushless motors and controllers and all of that kind of stuff has just evolved robot combat at quite a pace, really. And I don't think we're done with that yet. I think we're still kind of in the middle of the brushless revolution at this point in time, because people are still working out what you can actually do with a brushless motor. I mean, a great example of this is B-Force, who are doing hub motors in the 13 kilo weight class. Like, if you'd asked somebody pre-pandemic if you could build a hub motor for a featherweight, they would have asked you what a hub motor is. And if you'd done that, like, post 2021, they would be like, no, absolutely not. They break in beetle weights. But here is B-Force fighting hub motors and featherweights and doing well with that. So, like I said, I still think we're kind of on a trajectory with this yet, and I don't think we've hit the top. I think we're getting there, but I don't think we're there yet. Now, the other thing is, can I get this guy out? No, I can't. Okay, so I'm going to have to loosen these sidewalls off anyway, so we might as well just take them off entirely. Oh, and that will let me get to this bolt better. Great. Okay. This is good. This is the idea. We're going to take off the side panel and I'm going to reframe the camera because we're too far in right now to actually see what's going on. Oh, Razor's message got retracted. Can I see what that actually was? No, I cannot. Sorry, Razor. Whatever your message was, it's probably a link of some kind. YouTube has yeah, has retracted that for me without me knowing what it was. You said get into laser cut weapons as soon as you can. Are there suppliers that sell weapons for 150G off the shelf, or is it all custom order? It depends where you are, basically. I know that Tom Brewster and the BBB crowd have done batches of weapons for ant weights in the UK before. In America, I don't know, but also in America, the 150 gram class isn't as like popular, so it isn't fought as much, so there isn't as much support from suppliers for it. And I know like Fingertech sells stuff that you can use in the 1 pound class, which is hardened steel weapon systems. In Australia, I don't think so. Every now and again, there's like one-off runs where people do laser cut orders and stuff together, but there isn't really, as far as I know, a like supplier of laser cut weapons in Australia. The way to do it, personally, if you're in Australia, the way to do it would be to go to your local event, go to the event that you want to do, and talk to people about doing an order. In Australia, the best place to get hardox, which is what these weapons are made out of, and my antweight weapons are made out of, cut is a place called Action Laser in Perth. They cut hardox all day, every day. They supply the hardox. They cut it really, really well. These weapons I've got right now are trash. Hang on, let me zoom in and let's see if we can get this on. So you can see how like ribbony these cuts are. I got these done at a local place here in Adelaide, and these guys don't cut hardox that much. So asking them to cut 12mm thick hardox, they gave very ribbony, like not clean cuts on them. And I'm never going back to them because all the times I've ever used Action Laser, I've got nice, smooth, clean cuts all the way up like 20mm thick and beyond. These are 16mm thick currently. And yeah, while it would be nice not to have to ship robot parts from Perth, I haven't found anywhere locally that does hardox quite as well as them. And that is mostly because hardox is a mining material when you're outside of the combat robot space, and Perth does a lot of mining, so they have a lot of call for hardox. So they use it all the time, and they cut it all the time. All right, we're going to back out here for a second while I work on these walls. Right, yes, you're in Adelaide. Okay, well, come to ARC then, and talk to some people. People are doing action laser cut orders all the time, and yeah, if you ask nicely, somebody might like let you throw your designs into their order as well. That might be something I could do a video on, is doing laser cutting for... doing designing for laser cutting, because there are specific file types you need, and there are things that you should like make sure of when you're doing like design for laser cut. Like one of the big things is if you are designing holes in a laser cut piece, the holes shouldn't be any smaller than the thickness. So like this is a 16mm thick piece of hardox. The diameter of the holes in here should be less than 16mm, which is why these are a star cutout in them. Where are we? There. Yeah, a star cutout rather than like 4mm holes, like 6 more 4mm holes and a bearing hole. Because a laser cutter can cut this, but they cannot cut just a 4mm diameter hole in the piece. Because like sorry, I'm bumping my thing around all over the place. Oh, Razor said, I don't mind if you take a break and put it in device. Look, if I get to the have to put it in device point, it will probably happen off stream at this point. It's weird that a mistype caused your message to get retracted. Unless you retracted the message. Yes. You wonder why 150 gram isn't as popular in America. Um, Hi Tara, how's it going? So I think the reason that 150 grams isn't as popular in America is because historically it's not been popular. Um, Pre drones and pre tiny drones, as far as I'm aware, pre tiny drones, the 150 gram class was not as popular as like the beta weight class, for example. But when you're talking about not having 180 milliamp hour lipos, which are what most people run in their 150 gram robots, and you're having to run your 150 gram robot off like a NiCad 9-volt battery, for example, that is a ton of your 150 grams sucked up just with your battery, which means that it's very, very difficult to fit all the rest of the components in and around that. And yeah, the problems get worse from there because before tiny quads, a lot of the receivers were quite big. You couldn't get a lot of micro receivers, and the ones you could get were expensive, which made building for an ant weight quite expensive, which made the 150 gram class, as far as I'm aware, more of a challenge type class than a popular class to build in. Having said all of this, I started in combat robots just as like all of this stuff started making life easier for building 150 gram robots. Um, and so the 150 gram class has been quite popular and quite easy to build basically for the entirety of my time in combat robots. And then as for why America, it's not popular in America, well, they had the 1 pound class, and the 1 pound class is easier to build for, or historically would have been easier to build for than 150 grams because of the weight issues and stuff. And in my mind, the 1 pound class and the 150 gram class serve the same function, and that function is your easy way into combat robots. You can 3D print your chassis. I mean, in the 1 pound class, you need to 3D print in slightly better materials, but you can still definitely 3D print a chassis that will survive. The components are cheaper than like even going up into a beta weight. Robots hit less hard and will do less damage in those lower classes, so they're a good place to get yourself in and get started, but you don't need two of them. If you've got a popular 150 gram class, you don't really need to fight 1 pounds, especially if you're already fighting beetles. Like, the difference between all of that isn't enough to make it worthwhile to do 150 gram 1 pound and beetles. So, yeah, if you're doing 150 gram, you do 150 gram, and if you're doing 1 pound, you do 1 pound, and that's kind of, as far as I can work out, that is why America doesn't do 150 grams, is because they do 1 pound, and they don't need both of those classes, so they just run the 1 pounders. Um, People can correct me if I'm wrong here. This is my personal observation of the sport from an inside slash outside perspective, because of course I'm not in the American scene. I go over there and fight as often as I can, and I will love to get back to NHL at some point in the near future, but I don't fight there regularly. I do fight here in Australia regularly and have done for 8 years, I think. Um, yes, 3D printing is what made 150 popular. I would agree with that. I mean, people were building 150 gram robots before that point, especially in the UK. There's a lot of like polycarbonate based 150 gram robots in the UK, and that honestly is still a popular building method over in the UK. Is building out of like hand cut sheets of polycarbonate to get a robot together, because it does work and it is quite sturdy and quite solid. Um, but yes, being able to design whatever you like and 3D print it out and run it as a 150 gram robot definitely helped the popularity of that. I mean, personally, I love the 150 gram class because I know I can print something in ABS. It's going to survive at least a fight. And it lets me try out weird, wonderful, strange, interesting designs that, and try them out quickly and easily. See if there's any merit in them before I, commit to building them as a beetle or a feather or a hobby or something along those lines. Um, Desktop CNC seems to be getting better and more affordable. That could make a huge difference. I would agree. I run a like $300 little bed slinging CNC machine. That is what made this beetle weight. I feel like CNC beetle weights are kind of where it's at in terms of reliability. You can, of course, print beetle weights. People have done that to great success. I know Tom was in chat earlier. I don't know if he's still here or not, but he prints all of Paws. He does that in TPU. TPU is a great material. You can definitely print beetle weights in TPU. There's no question about that. It's just a question of whether or not you can print TPU. And I guess the other question is it harder to learn how to CNC HDPE, or is it harder to learn how to print TPU? I don't know. I don't know. TPU can be difficult. It can also be very frustrating if you don't have a printer that is set up for it. I know personally that my old printers, I have a Bamboo lab now, and that prints TPU beautifully every time. I've had to slow it down quite a lot to get it to do that, but it still prints faster than any of my old machines did, even printing TPU, which is the lowest speeds that I run it at. But my old machines, printing TPU was something that I dreaded. So I was using TPU as sparingly as possible. I was using it for things that I know I needed it for, like wheels, for example, where I needed the flex, I needed them to be able to take a hit and keep going, but I wasn't confident or comfortable printing entire TPU chassis before I got the Bamboo. In fact, I printed, I think, the one Cacophony chassis that Tom now has. I think that was the only one I printed myself, and it took ages. I actually got 3D Printworks here in Adelaide to print me the other couple that I took with me over to NHRL, and then the ones that then became Cacophony after that. Because, yeah, it was very, very difficult, and it is very, very difficult to print. Yeah. You notice the IRC Facebook group has gone private. Any particular reason for that? Yeah, so the reason for that is the same reason that all Facebook groups go private, and that is bots. The ARC group for, I don't know, 6 months or so had a problem where every other day there was like 5 or 6 bots that were spamming religious messaging in... I cannot remember what the language was now, but it wasn't in English. It was in, I think, Indonesian. But because of all of that spam, the group had to go private and, you know, basically allow people in and then which also gives us the ability to kick people out easily, which is an unfortunate thing to have to do. But if people are not actually people, are instead bots that are just there to spam things that are in absolutely no way relevant to combat robotics, then they don't deserve to, be in the group, basically. Yeah, and to your point of not having Facebook, yes, I get that. I personally probably wouldn't have Facebook anymore if it wasn't for combat robots, but combat robots is one of, like, finding events for combat robots and things is still basically easiest on Facebook at this point in time. So it stays around. Now, we've got one side off. I'm not going to pull this motor off this wall just yet. In actual fact, this wall looks fine. It may even just see combat again in the near future. Yeah, I mean, this whole chassis might even see combat other than the base plate, because we're going to cut a whole new base plate, so it's got holes in the right positions for the accelerometer that I started messing around with in the last video. I'm just going to take a bit of a drink here. You can print TPU on a $200 machine just very slowly. Yes, you can. It needs to be printed very slowly, but it can also be frustrating. So I was printing it on a $500 machine from like 8 years ago, which is approximately what a $200 machine is nowadays. and it would work. But if you pushed it too fast, if the geometry was wrong and you got a bit of back pressure in the nozzle, then you can have times when the filament worms its way out of the filament path, and you just end up with a massive, like, spaghetti. It's like pre-extruded spaghetti when printing TPU, especially if you're not printing it slow enough. So it can be frustrating as a material to print with, even on a $200 machine. Which, yeah, again, if you have a machine that's designed for it and built for it, then it's fine. But yeah, it can be problematic. You hated TPU until you got a direct drive extruder. Yeah. Even with some of the direct drive extruders out there, you cannot print TPU on them. Just because, again, TPU, if you give it any option to find a way out of the filament extrude path, it will do that. And it is just a pain. Which bamboo you've been heavily considering upgrading from your Ender 3? I have a P1S, which I think is the right designation. I have the P1 version with the walls on it. And look, I understand that's an expensive thing. But I would also say that if you are printing chassis and like robot parts all the time, if you can afford to upgrade, do it. I have 2 other printers entirely. I bought my bamboo, and the other 2 printers have gathered dust since then. I didn't intend to do that. It's just that the bamboo is quicker and better and easier. And also, Bamboo did not pay me to say that. They have not paid me. I did reach out to them. I did ask them if they would send me a printer. They haven't even responded. They don't know who I am. I just like their product, basically. Yeah. If you have the money, the X1 Carbon is amazing. Has printed everything I throw at it. Even had my first decent nylon prints. Yes. So I've heard that. I've heard that they're pretty good. I would also say that from my end, the P1S that I have has been really, really good. I don't know if I had the money, if I would get an X1 Carbon, or if I would just get another P1S with a upgraded toolpath on it so I could print carbon fiber nylons and things. Because that would be cheaper than the X1 Carbon, and the printer that I have has already been good enough for everything I've needed to do. Like, I know that the X1 Carbon's got spaghetti detection and LiDAR and stuff on it, but I haven't had any print failures that weren't my fault, that I would consider those upgrades to be worthwhile enough to spend the extra money on a X1 Carbon rather than a P1S. It's basically where I'm at with those printers at the moment. But I'm going to stop talking and being an advert for Bamboo, who, again, is not paying me for this stream or anything at all, and go back to actually pulling this thing apart. So, again, we're just taking off these sidewalls because it's going to be easier to get to all of the screws and stuff. And also, it's actually going to let us get to this mount over here. Although this should come out now. Is anything holding this in? Wait, what? Oh. Ah, there's 2 bolts in the bottom. That's why it's not moving anywhere. My goodness. Oh, sometimes, I tell you what. Lose my head if it wasn't screwed on. There we go. Oh, these did actually have Loctite in them, but apparently that's denatured or something, because that did not feel like there was Loctite in that at all. That's interesting. I might have to look at how and or why that happened in the near future. Alright, so now we have the weapon plate out. This is the one where the motor broke. And yeah, this is the motor that broke. It's broken all the way down inside. I'm going to see if I can get this on camera. Can we go far enough in? Yeah, so there you go. It's broken all the way down inside there. And it's sheared through the actual shaft of the motor itself. Now, that shaft is... Let's take a look. only 3 millimeters thick. That is probably the problem with this. If it had a thicker shaft in it, it would probably survive a little bit better than that. Also, yes, we should zoom all the way back out now because that is far too close. There. That'll do. Yeah. So I don't know what to do about this. The choices are to upgrade motor to something that has a bigger shaft in it, or to downgrade motor to get a thinner motor and then try and put like a mounting clip over the top and put a bearing on top so that there's a bearing, like there's a little arm here that holds a bearing that kind of keeps the top of the motor on the motor, so to speak. I haven't really decided that, and I was hoping that pulling this thing apart would give me some insight as to what was going to be the best way to go. But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe if I keep pulling this thing apart, we'll have a brainwave. But for right now, we're just gonna go back to screws. Got an ooh from Razor. I don't know where exactly in the stream that, or what that is a reaction to. That is the only problem with streaming, is that there is a delay between your chats and where I am. So I don't always know exactly what you're reacting to here. I'm gonna just keep going with this, although actually I don't know that we need to take this wall out right now. I had to take one wall off at least to get to the this, because this gets wedged in. There are two little, can I see that? Yeah, there's a little tab right here. There's a little wall right here, and that's on both sides. So these silver pieces get wedged in by those walls. So even with all the bolts out, it's still quite difficult to get them off. You need to like have at least one wall gone so that there's no pinching force to keep it in place. But now with this off, we should, or we might be able to at least get this weapon off, because that would be a good next step here. Reaction was to the motor can. Yeah, this motor can is, it's interesting, because yeah, it sheared that shaft and then it got hit by my melty, and so it's just all wobbly and bent up. It's an interesting little piece. I will probably keep this for a little while, but it's not really a great trophy because it's not visible enough to put on my like shelf of things in the background of my videos. But it's still an interesting little trophy and an interesting little tidbit for a little while. I'm kind of ping-ponging around in the actual process of taking this thing apart right now. I'm just kind of taking screws out of the robot because all the screws need to come out of the robot at some point today. Which, well, we're getting there. How are we doing on time? Almost 10 o'clock in the evening. Okay. I think we are only going to get to getting as much of this as I possibly can done today, and then that'll probably... sorry. That was a big bump on the microphone. Hopefully that didn't pick up and go through. But yeah, we're going to get as much of this done as we possibly can. If we can't get this weapon system apart, I will have to do that off stream and, yeah, take it into my shed and put it in a vise and beat on these screws with a hammer or something just to try and get them out of where they are. Because they are hardened steel bolts and they are very stuck right now. So, anyway, now I could maybe try... Now that we're kind of somewhat apart here, I don't have the right thing for that, but I do have locking pliers. What I'm thinking is that I might be able to lock the locking pliers on here, wedge this Allen key in this end, and do something about this. Maybe. Very, very maybe. Wish me luck on this one. This is gonna be a problem child, I think. Okay, it definitely needs to be this side. I have no idea if... you can even see what I'm trying to do right now, but... that was movement. That was movement. Okay, this is possible. It's just difficult. All right, let's try and bring you down a little bit and see if we can show you what's actually happening right now. So I am jamming this as best I can into there and moving the screw. Come on. Stay in there. Thank you. Come on. All right, we need to keep the... Oh, this is difficult, but it's working, so we're sticking with it. Hello? Look at... no. I had a motion working, and then it stopped working very suddenly. I was nearly there. Oh, so I need to make sure that what I'm doing is on camera, so you can actually see how things are lining up right now. This is very hard to show you on camera because it's stuck in the middle. Almost there. We've backed the knot off a little bit. I think another like 2 turns or so, and we should be there, which I think I can do. It's just not as easy as if the oh, there we go. This is working. I just no, don't come out of that spot. We were so close. I gotta, once I get it moving, I just gotta keep going, because otherwise I lose it. All right, here we go. Yeah. This poor Allen key is probably getting a bit rounded over and beat up, but look, if it works, it works. Come on. Stay. I think we're doing it. No, don't move. Yes. Good. Is that it? Yes, we're off the nylock. Victory! Oh, I didn't think we were getting that off tonight, to be perfectly honest with you. Oh, boy. It's like trying to remove one with the heads cut off. Yes. Oh, 100% it is. I'm not sure if you were here for the start of this, Tom, but there are 2 bolts still in here that are very, very mangled, that are getting in the way of trying to take everything off right now. But before we get the rest of this off, we need to get this bolt out. Okay, there we go. I'm just forcing that brushless motor to stop it from turning. You like to imagine I always talk to my robots like this. Maybe. Only when they're being difficult. We go for words of affirmation around here. Positive encouragement. Alright, there we go. Oh, goodness me. Alright, well, now that's off. The problem is that now that is off, we have those 2 bolts to get back out of here, which I think those are going to have to be done in the vise, in the shed, much after this stream is over. These bearings seem okay, though. So despite the fact that they got beat up, obviously, because the bolts got really beat up, we should be okay to get this all apart in a vise. But again, that is not here. That is in the shed. So we'll do that later. Or I will do that later off camera. But for now, we've got things coming apart. It's going pretty well. That was the one I was really worried about, so I'm very, very glad that worked. Oh, that's interesting. I think I tightened those bolts down on this pulley a little bit too much, because there's some like indentations in the back of the pulley that the motor shaft's made. So, yeah. So yes, I still do need to work out what I'm doing about these motors. I do have a box of motors behind me, which we might look at some options here in a minute. Depends on how quickly the rest of this destruction goes. Destruction? No. Teardown. Teardown is the right words. Oh, it's been a long day, and I am not choosing the right words necessarily in all of these cases, but that's okay. Come on. This should be the last bolt holding in this end plate. And then we can get this end plate off as well. The other thing I'd be interesting to know is whether or not these end plates rounded out at all. So they're just aluminium and they've been holding a hardened steel shaft. So it is conceivable that these have rounded out. Let's go all the way down. So it's this hole here that could have moved or shifted in fights. I guess the best way to find out would be to try. So we'll put the bolt in. It doesn't wiggle. Huh. I would call that a win, to be honest. Because if that had loosened off in any way, like in any appreciable way, I would expect a lot of wiggle. It's a little bit further out, but when you push it down, it stops. So I don't know what that's about. It's a tiny little bit of wiggle. But I mean, I did tolerance these so that there should be a slip fit, basically. I don't know. That's interesting. Oh, there's a mark on this bolt. Interesting. That might be where the bearing was running, and that, I think, is what's causing it to jam up right at the very bottom and get no wiggle, is there's a little, like, mark on that. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's still better than I thought they were going to be. Oh, sorry. I was worried they were going to be. I was worried that I was going to do this and I would have a huge amount of slop, especially in the, like, this direction where the hits are coming in from. And there's a tiny little bit, but I don't think that's any worse than it was before fighting. So, cool. Pretty happy with that, to be honest. I've got too many parts going on here. I really should have, like, nested these better as I was taking things apart. But, you know, hindsight is 20/20, as they say. Cool. Well, now we've just got this to go, which is not that much, really. You've noticed on the site that I have not registered any ants for Havoc 7. Will we see this as a party compete? No, you will not see this as a party compete. This as a party is not going to be signed up for Havoc. Just because I have 3 robots already in, 2 hobbies and a beetleweight, which, I mean, we're taking the beetleweight apart right now. That's going to be a lot for me to deal with. Running a spinner is... like a spinner ant is too much on top of all of that. And also there is a thing that I am planning to do, which is I've challenged a couple of people to vertical spinners, like to vertical spinner fights. So this is a party will be there and we'll be doing like demo fights basically, but it won't be running in the main competition because I just don't have time to keep it operational for the full 2 days, plus also 2 hobbies and a melty. So yeah, it's just that's the way that is sitting right now. I believe registration's closed tonight, and I may or may not register an ant weight, but it will be a control focused ant weight. It will not be a spinner ant weight. It would basically be something that can tank a lot of damage and push people down the pit and not need tons and tons of work done between fights, basically. And look, I know that there are people who have signed up for Havoc who are bringing many robots and many spinners, and I wish them luck, but I do not want to be them. The last couple of Havocs I've done have been very busy affairs. I'd like a slightly easier one this year. But that is not to say that this is a party's going anywhere. There is a ant weight competition in Adelaide next week. I will be taking This Is a Party to that. I will also be taking Nucleus to that. And if I get it done in time, I might even take the robot I'm thinking about putting into Havoc to that as well. So keep an eye out, because there will be fight reports coming out after all of that happens. I don't know if Nucleus, which is my build of Orbitron, will go into the tournament or not. It's a little bit fragile in build at this point in time, and it's also a real pain to charge the battery. So there's part of me that wants to put it in just for the for the point of the thing is to put it in and run it in the tournament. And then there's part of me that's like, if I run it in the tournament, it is going to be a very, very stressful day. So I could just run it as like exhibition fights at next weekend's event and not put it in the main tournament. And I don't know how I feel yet. That's going to be a thing to think about over this week. But either way, it will definitely see some level of combat, even if what it ends up doing is fighting This Is a Party, and I will give the controls to This Is a Party to somebody else, and I will fight Nucleus. I will fight This Is a Party with Nucleus on my own. Really, really hoping to make it to Havoc as a spectator. Yeah, absolutely, come along. I mean, so Science Alive, which is the event that Robot Havoc is incredible. It is a massive 2-day science event that I've been involved in some way or another for a very long time now, since like 2013, I think, was my first Science Alive or something like that. They are really, really cool events. And if you can get to Science Alive and come see Havoc, absolutely do it. And like, come see us, come see Havoc, like Robot Havoc, but also definitely go and check out everything else that is in Science Alive, because it's, like I said, it's a great event. It's a huge, huge science-based event, and there is loads to see, loads to do. It's well worth it, basically. As long as you're free that weekend, come along, come and see everything, because yeah, there's lots to see. I think, yeah, like every year there's like Dalek builders, and there's makerspace people, and there's Robo-Roos, and there's like a bunch of different people in industry, like science and technology industry, coming and showing off the things that they're doing and like the things that are interesting. They've always got like a big stage with stage shows and science shows and stuff, which are, as far as I've heard, pretty good. I mean, the last like 3 or 4 Science Alives, I've been at Havoc for the entire weekend and not really seen much, but you know, I'll get out for like lunch and stuff occasionally, but it doesn't mean I can go and see shows, unfortunately. But that would be good. Some of those shows are quite cool. Yeah, anyway, that is all to say. Go and do Science Alive. Come and see us at Havoc, because yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a great weekend. Are there weight bonuses in tournaments in Oz, or is it tournament specific? Yes, there are weight bonuses. Most of Australia runs on Spartec rules. It's an acronym that I can't pronounce properly, but basically Adelaide, Melbourne, Ipswich, Sydney, and then our featherweight divisions all run slightly modified Spartec rules, or whatever the acronym is, which is a fairly standard set of fighting rules. So it's the like 1.5 times weight bonus for shufflers and 2 times weight bonus for walkers. Well, as in, so you get to be up to 1.5 times for a shuffler and 2 times for a walker. So like if it's a 1 pound robot, it can be 1.5 pound as a shuffler, and it can be 2 pound as a walker. There is debate currently amongst the organizers in Australia as to whether or not bristling is a shuffling motion or not. There are some events that explicitly say that that bristles are not shufflers, mostly because people who build bristlebots who are basically all weapon and nothing else, and they just use like vibration from the weapon to move the robot around, and in doing so have just a much bigger weapon on them than anybody else in the class. And yeah, so some clubs have it and some clubs don't. It is a little club specific on that specific one, but the shuffler and walker weight bonuses are there. So as Tom asked this question, original pause would probably have been deemed a shuffler in Australia, and then I think actually no, sorry, new pause would also be a shuffler at this point, because it's basically a cam driven mechanism, or it's like you're rotating a motor in one direction to get your forwards motion, which leads it to be a shuffler and not a full walker. Yes. Razor and Chris is back are saying the right acronym, so it's in chat right now. Also, hello, Chris. Because I don't think I'd seen that you were there yet. So we are also nearing the end of this. I have just removed all the screws to get this last wall out. Well, second to last wall out, and we've got 3 more screws to go. And then I've got a huge pile of robot on the desk in no particular order, which I am definitely going to need to sort out. Although the one thing I am going to say here is these screws. So I've been pulling wood screws out of this robot all evening now. These have all come out pretty well. Let's see if that's going to focus on those. Yeah, there we go. That's going to focus on those. So I've been pulling these guys out of this robot all evening. These are 2mm cheap steel wood screws, effectively, and quite long ones at that. And that is, come on, focus, camera. No, oh, there it goes. That is all that is holding this meltybrain together at most points, is these. And I don't see a single bent one in all of the ones that we've pulled out, which is ridiculous. I think that's maybe even the first time that's happened. I'm pretty sure I've pulled bent screws out of every other melty that I've ever built, but it doesn't matter because every side is locked together with like 3 or 4 of them. So if one of them bends, the other ones are holding everything in place. And also because it's all jigsawed together, like this guy will sit in that spot straight without the screws holding it there, really. Like there's a tiny little bit of play in it, and that's it. But other than that, it holds itself there. So really the screws are just kind of keeping this plate down in and kind of sandwiching the robot together. So, but still, interesting that I have not bent a single one. I've stripped the heads on a couple of them. Because again, putting these in, it's basically the same process, but in reverse. And if you put too much torque on the screwdriver when you're putting them in, you very, very easily strip the heads. I also pre-drill all these holes, and I can tell when I've pushed a screw further than the hole I pre-drilled, and bye-bye screw, that one's off the table. I can tell when I've put a screw past the pre-drill, because all of a sudden it takes a ton more torque, and I'm much more likely to strip a head on a screw that's gone past the pre-drill than I am on one that's just sitting in the pre-drilled hole. And realistically, as far as I've seen, neither option holds things together better. So realistically, I should just pre-drill deeper on all of these. But of course, that can be difficult to do because these are tiny, tiny screws, and I can't do the pre-drilling in the CNC machine, especially for the ones that are in the sides. So like these holes on these tabs here could maybe be done in the CNC machine if I like decided to put a very, very tiny drill bit in my CNC machine and do all of the spot holes first. But all of the ones that go in the edges, so like this screw here goes through here in a way that I could pre-drill easily on the CNC machine, but it goes into the side of the part on this wall in an orientation that I definitely cannot pre-drill with the CNC machine. So I'd still have to do some manual drilling on these, even if I was pre-drilling them with the CNC machine. All right, there we go. We are apart. That is one vertical spinner meltybrain in pieces. What is the weight category for this robot? This is a beetle weight, 1.36 kilos or 3 pounds. Yeah. That is it. Now, I was going to very quickly look at motors because I have options. In fact, I have a lot of options. But in fact, hang on, not that one. Where's this other one? We have a lot of options. Although I don't think anything in this box is going to be worth putting in here. I think all the things in here are going to be too big for what we're dealing with today. Yeah, I think the closest thing we've got in here is some stuff that's like old brushless drive setups that I've done. Like this guy's from, well, was a possible replacement for an Annie Are You OK weapon. So we've got some drive setups and stuff. Yeah, okay. None of that is going to be worthwhile today. Put that down. Okay. That leaves us with these. So, first of all, I want to get one of these motors off. Let's get the broken motor off, hey? Because that one definitely needs to come off one way or another. That's far too big. Have we got a better Allen key? Certainly got a better Allen key somewhere. Could you print the parts with holes for the screws already in them? I could print the parts. However, all of these are HDPE, which you can print HDPE. Apparently, it's a real pain to print. So I CNC it all out of sheets of HDPE. If I was doing this, I wonder if I could do solid TPU. If I could print this entire robot in solid TPU. The world's bounciest meltybrain. That would be interesting. I mean, the problem with that idea is that TPU is actually a higher density material than HDPE, which means that for the same size part, it weighs more, which means I probably would actually run out of weight if I printed the whole chassis in TPU. Doesn't mean I don't want to try it. Something to think about. Again, though, post Havoc, because, yeah, no, we don't have time to deal with that before then. Yeah, okay, so here's our motor. Oh, it's still got the little, like, retaining clip in the back of the motor. That's interesting. I can't believe that didn't go flying. Yeah, so I think, like I said, this is a... Alright, so that's actually, that Allen key gives us a good measure. I think it's a 3mm shaft. Let's work that out. Yeah, so that would be about a 3mm shaft in that motor, which is not enough, as it turns out. Just get a little bit of water because I have been talking for a long time now. So I've got some options here. These options, the hard part about a lot of these is trying to get the bolt holes to line up. And I think we can get 2 bolt holes to line up on this guy. But also I would need to drill a hole in the middle for the shaft to go. These motors that I have here are fairly special because the shaft gets recessed. Hang on, let's get closer in. Here we go. Okay. So these, there we go. You can see that the shaft goes in a little recess here, which means that the back panel can be flat and not have a hole for that shaft in it. Most brushless motors are not like that. Most brushless motors are like this one. Come on, camera, you can focus. There we go. Much better. So that has a shaft here that sticks out of the motor, which means that you need to cut a hole for that. So if I was going to do this replacement, I would need to cut extra holes, which I can do. I can just print a 3D printed jig and then drill it, which would be totally fine. The question though is that worthwhile? Is this shaft better than what we've got already? And the answer is no. That is a 3mm shaft. And my calipers are freaking out. I think they need a battery change. So that is a no-go. That's a 3mm shaft. I think all of these are going to be 3mm shafts. Which means that none of these are going to be a upgrade for the motors we're currently using. So the only thing that makes sense to do would be to put in a shorter motor like this one, and then put a bearing above the motor shaft. Well, sorry, above the motor can, so that the bearing is supporting it. Like, where did those bearings go? Here's our bearings. I'm talking about doing like this, basically. Put a bearing up here and have it fit onto this part and then be held from either side, so that when there are forces that are trying to rip the motor this way out of the robot, this bearing is there to like take some of that load and transmit it back into this fairly nice aluminium part I've got, which should hold it, I think. I don't know. We'd find out. We'd run a test, see how it goes. The question is how we do that, and whether or not that's actually going to make any difference. Gut feel is it will, but I'm not sure if I can do that in a way that fits into this current setup. Sorry. Yeah. I don't know if we can do that in a way that fits into this current setup easily. I mean, doing it on a thin motor might be the way to go, because that gives us space to put the bearing in. I've got a couple of these. I don't know. That's not really a lot of extra distance. Oh, I've got these guys. These are my go-to motors for like thin, big torque motors, so they actually might be okay. What's the kV difference? That's the other thing I need to worry about. Ah, okay, so these are a 750 kV right now. I need to make sure I'm under the tip speed limit at Havoc too. But that might work. That's going to save a little bit of space, height-wise. And then, of course, the other option is always to go to an 1806, but I think... Yeah, no, that's not going to save us any space at all, so we'd need to put a bearing above where this is, which we can't do. And an 1806 has a much smaller shaft in it. These are a 2mm shaft in these, so that, in the bin. Although, having said that, this motor here is one off the original Vert Melty, so I did run 1806s in that original Vert Melty, and oh, okay. Yeah, that's why this one actually needs to go in the broken bin. It's a bit crunchy on the inside. Okay. Yeah, so 1806s are a no-go at this size. I think what I'm just going to have to do for now, I've got some spares of these, I'll buy some more spares of these, and I'll just have to put them in. The only problem with this, of course, is that getting to these 4 screws at the back is very, very difficult. It takes a long time to get this out and back in again. So if these break more, then I'm out. Like, I'm out of fights for like half a day trying to pull the whole robot apart and put it back together to just fix one spinner motor, which is not ideal. These are also not a great candidate for a shaft replacement either, because like the bearings inside them can't take, or like the thing in here can't really take anything bigger than the shaft it had in it. And also these shafts are interesting because they're like, they've got the screw thread on them, which I don't know if that's part of the shaft of the motor or actually part of the can of the motor. And this doesn't really tell me that either. Whatever it is, it means that it's not very easy to push the shaft out through the motor and replace it. This is one of those challenging points in combat robots where a design thing needs to happen, but trying to work out what design thing and work out the exact part that needs to go into the design thing. Yeah, it's just it's an interesting little conundrum here. Because of course the Melty is throwing forces out there that nothing should ever have to experience, and I'm making things experience them, which is not going well for the things. So, someone in the comments section of my last video suggested a hub motor design, and I really like the idea of a hub motor design. It was the original intention for all of my weaponized melties, was to put them all over into hub motors. It's just time to do the R&D to get something that will work well enough in a melty. Is not something I've had, so it's something on my mind. I can't at this point say at all when that's going to happen, but it is there. I'm thinking about it. I just I don't know when I'm going to do it quite yet. Yeah. That is a problem. So this is the thing. Because Havoc right now is basically a month away, I don't have time to get what I would call speculative motors. So if I look on like AliExpress right now and I find a motor that I think will fit in here, if I buy it, it's not going to be here for 3 weeks. And then I've got like a week until competition to see if that motor is going to be a better fit, and then also make modifications to parts to make that motor fit if it is a good motor. The problem is that, like, because it's 3 weeks, if that motor doesn't work, then I have to run with what I've got here because I don't then have time to buy other motors. That is one of the problems with being in Australia, is that shipping times are ridiculous for everything. It is bare minimum 2 weeks. There is nothing under that. Yeah, unless you're buying from someone local, which is hard to do. Yeah. So I don't really have time to purchase new motors. I would have to run with what I've got unless I'm buying spares effectively. If whatever I use, I can buy some spares and they'll be here in time for Havoc, but I can't buy something new and expect it to work without having a backup plan in place. But I guess I do have a backup plan in place. It's the original motor design, and I just have to accept the fact that these may break, and if they do break, then, you know, it's going to be a bad day because I'm going to have to sit there for... How long have we been going now? We've been going for almost 2 hours, so it's taken me about 2 hours to pull this whole robot apart and get to these bolts. I could probably do that in about half the time, so about an hour to pull the whole robot down to get to these bolts to take that motor out and replace it. Which is not good design, but it did mean that this part was quite rigid and the belt tension was always going to be the same and stuff, so that's why I made that compromise. But yeah, going forwards I might have to redesign this part. And also, look, if I go back to doing a horizontal, then we will need to redesign this part because this part is for a vertical, and we'll need a whole other part to go into the horizontal. Although we may not even have an aluminium piece in that because the horizontal worked just in HDPE. I don't know how. It really should have broken, but it didn't. So maybe we won't need aluminium pieces in the horizontal. I guess we'll find out. Yeah. Anyway, I think we're probably going to end the stream about there. It is 10:30 here in Australia, in Adelaide, and it's probably time for me to pack up a little bit. But I can do that off camera. Should do that off camera. You guys don't want to sit here and watch me sort this giant mess that I have made for myself. Yeah, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the stream. I am going to try and stream a bit more. I've been seeing people around the place streaming and enjoying it. In particular, Jay, who runs a really good channel and streams once a week on their Thursday evenings, Australia's Friday mornings. I have linked them before in the past. Can I link them here? I can link them here. Let me very quickly link to their channel. And I recommend you go and check them out if you haven't seen them before. And then I'm going to call it a night. All right. That's Kinokitsu. Like I said, if you haven't seen Kinokitsu, go and check it out. Jay is building mechs for NHRL. They've done 2 so far, and they're currently working on a 3rd, and they are streaming a lot, and yeah, bringing in people from NHRL and like asking them lots of questions and getting interesting conversation out of them. I've been quite enjoying their streams. So much so that I started streaming again myself, and now like I said, I want to do some more of this as we go forwards. It may be after Havoc because again, there is lots and lots and lots to do before Havoc, but that is always the way with me and Havoc. I always commit a lot to Havoc because I love that event so much. That I have to give it my best shot, basically. Yeah, like I said, might be some streams between now and then, might not be, but definitely after Havoc in early August, there will be more streams going on because I'll have more time having worked on all of my robots. But yeah, enjoy, and I'll see you later on.